Next on the news, prayers are being answered, the gift of a second chance.
A lifelong bond that became life-saving. I'm Jessica Easthope with two friends who have a new lease on life and a new mission to raise awareness.
Resting and recovering, an NYPD officer is in the hospital after being shot. What Mayor Eric Adams is saying about the incident. Plus this.
I don't know how you can't watch that video, parent or non-parent, and not be shocked and disturbed.
Security footage shows a preschooler walking around with a gun. Now his father is dealing with serious charges in court. Plus, beating adversity, the student who overcame her blindness to become a championship swimmer. I'm Christine Persichetti. Current News starts right now. It's an ordinary task, but it's the answer to Deborah Malloy's prayers. Just 2 months ago, she didn't even have the energy to do the dishes, but now she has a new lease on life. Deborah just received a kidney, and she's calling it a miracle, one that couldn't have happened without a little help from Currents News. Jessica Easthope has the story from Long Island.
Hello, Deborah. My name's Barry. I'm with NYU Kidney Transplant. I'm calling this morning because we have a kidney for you. And
it was the call Deborah Malloy was waiting for, and she missed it.
Give me a call back at,
but now she forever has a memory of the moment her life changed.
My emotions were running the gamut because I was like going from disbelief to crying to calling people.
Deborah's recovering from transplant surgery. She got the call that NYU Langone had a kidney for her and was in a hospital gown less than 3 hours later. Most people are on the list for 3 to 5 years. Deborah was on it for 5 months.
It's amazing how prayer works, and I know it works.
Last year, when Deborah found out her kidney disorder would require a transplant, she turned to Christine Whalen, her former first-grade student at Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Academy and now great friend. The two got to work, creating a social media campaign for Deborah. Their shared mission brought them closer. And though Deborah's kidney came to her in a different way, they raised awareness.
Nobody helped me that way, but maybe somebody will help somebody else that way.
Like the work that we've done to get the word out and let people know about this and hopefully help other people has been equally rewarding.
Deborah now has 3 kidneys, the 2 she was born with and one from a stranger, an Ohio man 15 years younger than her, who died of respiratory failure.
That foreign body is helping me live and giving me a second chance on life. If it wasn't for him, I don't know how my health would be at this point. It saved my life.
7 weeks after surgery, Deborah's still on a cocktail of medications.
This is everything I have to take every day from
But she's healthy and feels better than ever, and says Currents News played a part in her unbelievable journey.
We were on the Currents broadcast, it broadcast last time on November 1st, exactly a month before this. And the first initial thought that I had and that Debbie had was, it's a Christmas miracle. But we're already starting to make our list of the things we have to do, because she can.
Deborah won't find out for a year who her donor was, but when she can, she plans to contact his family to say thank you. On Long Island, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
The governor's office says there are over 7,200 people waiting on the kidney transplant wait list in New York. If you're interested in becoming an organ donor, just go to ny.gov for more information. Developing tonight, a massive manhunt is underway for 2 men who shot at police officers in an unmarked car. The incident happened early Tuesday morning when 2 uniformed officers from the public safety team were patrolling East Tremont for gang activity. The gunman opened fire, hitting the windshield and the officer in the passenger seat. A 16-year-old was taken into custody and a gun was found on him. Mayor Eric Adams says he spoke to the officer and vowed to get more guns off the streets.
I spoke with Officer Lee and his family, and he's proud to have done his job on the front line to deal with the violence that we have witnessed, particularly in the borough of the Bronx. Thanks to the police work of Officer Lee and his colleagues, we've witnessed a reduction in shootings in this borough, and we're going to continue to do so. But it clearly emphasizes too many young people have too many guns in their hands.
The officer, a 7-year veteran of the force, is now out of the hospital. Doctors say the bullet, quote, narrowly missed vital structures. Unfortunately, incidents like the one in East Tremont are becoming more and more common. The number of officers being shot and killed in the line of duty is rising. According to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, at least 64 officers were shot and killed in 2022. That's the same death toll as the year before, but a 21% increase over the average number of officers killed by firearms over the last decade. The mayor said this is because guns are in the hands of the wrong people. Speaking of that, wait till you see this shocking story that could have been a disaster. You're looking at a 4-year-old caught on camera waving around a real gun. We'll have that full story later in this newscast. On top of getting guns off of New York City streets, Mayor Adams is also looking to move some migrants by shipping them upstate. In a phone interview with the New York Post, Adams said spreading out the migrant population could provide a shot in the arm to struggling upstate cities and at the same time alleviate New York City's resources. The comment comes just days after he filed an emergency mutual aid request to Governor Kathy Hochul, asking the state to provide housing for just 500 of the city's more than 40,000 migrant population. The NYPD is investigating after swastikas were found spray painted on 2 trees in Queens. The incident was first reported Monday afternoon. The trees were found about a quarter mile from the main entrance of Forest Park, and they were tagged with the hate symbol in white paint. So far, no arrests have been made, but the graffiti has been removed. Also tonight, apocalyptic strikes across Ukraine.
Russian genocide against the Ukrainian people.
War crimes targeting civilians. Right now on Currents News, the unlikely search for survivors. But even the slightest hope has now all but died, and Dnipro is essentially a recovery operation. The crews ending their search for bodies where so many lives were violently ended in an instant. At least 40 people are dead and more than 24 are still missing. Emily Schmidt has the tragedy.
Amid the debris of a missile-destroyed apartment building in Dnipro, Ukraine, there is so much devastation, hope is almost impossible to hear. Rescuers have been calling for voices, looking for signs of life since a missile hit here Saturday. It's the deadliest attack in Ukraine in months. Though there have been some rescues, Ukraine's State Emergency Services says more than 36 people, including children, were killed. At least 25 more are missing. Ukraine's president says Russian people need to speak out against the violence.
Your cowardly silence, your attempt to wait out what is happening, will only end with the fact that one day these same terrorists will come for you.
Ukraine's security service blames a Russian cruise missile, but the Kremlin blames a Ukrainian air defense missile and denies it targets residential areas.
This is not only state terrorism, this is an example of what is unfolding as a policy of Russian genocide against the Ukrainian people.
The State Emergency Service says rescuers have cleared more than 8,500 metric tons of rubble since the building was hit. Even children are helping, bearing the burden of what their president calls a war crime. I'm Emily Schmidt reporting.
In honor of the victims, a memorial has popped up in an unlikely place, the center of Moscow. People in the city have placed flowers, toys, and photos next to the statue of a Ukrainian writer in the Russian capital. Protests against the war with Ukraine have spanned the country since it began last year. Unsanctioned rallies are banned under Russian law, and hundreds have been arrested. In the meantime, President Zelensky is asking allies yet again to provide even more money and military aid. His wife, the First Lady, directly challenged leaders gathered at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, warning them this isn't just a Ukrainian problem.
Яким може бути життя у світі, якщо буде дозволено We are facing the threat of a collapse of the world as we know it, the way that we are accustomed to it, or to what we aspire. What can be life in a world where tanks are allowed to strike at nuclear power stations? What will happen to inflation when state borders start to collapse and the integrity of countries will be trampled on by those who want it?
She went on to say that nothing, no place, and no country is off limits to Putin. In an effort to prepare for a spring offensive, Ukrainian troops touched down in the United States today. They will begin training immediately in Oklahoma City on the Patriot missile defense system that will allow them to shoot down incoming missiles before they strike. American troops typically train for a year before they use the Patriot, but the Pentagon is looking for ways to shorten that timeline for the Ukrainian forces so they can get back home. There's a lot more news headed your way. A diaper-clad 4-year-old armed with a gun. The shocking video is coming up. Plus, a shopper wearing a Jesus shirt was told to remove it or leave the mall. Why security guards called it offensive. And how a cruise ship rescued migrants in the middle of the ocean. We begin this story with a warning. What you are about to see will disturb you. A 4-year-old boy caught on camera playing with a loaded gun in the hallway of his apartment building. The neighbor's security video shows the child wearing just a diaper, waving the gun around, even pulling the trigger. Now his dad is facing charges.
I don't know how you can't watch that video, parent or non-parent, and not be shocked and disturbed.
This video from a neighbor's security camera shows a diapered 4-year-old with a handgun in an Indiana apartment complex Saturday.
He was standing in the middle of the hallway and he just kind of was holding it behind his back, and I thought, like, that's a real gun.
It indeed was a real gun, and neighbor Nicole Summers says she called 911 after she realized her own child was in danger.
And he kind of looked down just from the opening of the stairway and was like, look what I got, ha ha. And then when we seen the video of him pulling the trigger and knowing that he had pointed that gun at my son.
As cameras were rolling for a TV series covering activity at police departments around the country, Beech Grove police officers approached Shane Osborne, the boy's father, who denied having a gun inside his place. However, police soon found a 9mm gun inside the apartment. There were no rounds in the chamber. Osborne was handcuffed and taken into custody. According to a police report, the 45-year-old is facing felony neglect charges. Summers and others in the area say they're just glad no one got injured.
We were so blessed that that gun was not chambered, or that baby could be dead.
Police say Osborne could face more charges since he already has a felony conviction. Now to another story that may surprise you.
If you want to shop here, you need to take that shirt off.
It's not the fashion police, but a security guard at the Mall of America in Minnesota. Video of him ordering a man to remove his shirt that reads, "Jesus is the only way," is going viral. The guard said the tee was offensive to other shoppers because Jesus is associated with religion. He also said the shirt counts as soliciting, even though the man was not actively preaching. Jesus was at the center of a major Filipino celebration within the Diocese of Immigrants. This ritual prayer, dance, and mass at St. Joan of Arc Church in Queens honored the feast of Santo Niño de Cebu. The image of the Christ child is considered the oldest Christian relic in the Philippines, dating back more than 500 years. The Bishop of Brooklyn celebrated the mass, which kicked off celebrations in other parishes around the diocese over the weekend. Some more diocesan news. A young man has now reached the highest achievement you can get in the Boy Scouts, thanks to the influence of a Catholic priest. Michael Colombo became an Eagle Scout on Saturday. His project to get there, restoring seating and storage areas of the local Little League ball field. Michael began his scouting career in 3rd grade, but he credits Monsignor Theo Joseph from St. Ephraim's Parish in Diker Heights as a huge influence in his life. Monsignor Joseph even gave the invocation and closing prayer at the ceremony. And on top of that, he also got a letter of congratulations from the Bishop of Brooklyn, and we congratulate him too. If you've gone to the grocery store lately, you've seen it. A shopping list staple has gotten expensive. The average cost for a carton is climbing. Vanessa Yurkovich explains why.
If you've been to the grocery store recently, you may have noticed fewer eggs and higher prices. Up about 11% last month on average from November, up nearly 60% in the last year. $11.49 for a dozen eggs in New York, $10.99 in Hawaii.
I think it's ridiculous for it to be that much.
The highly pathogenic avian influenza, or avian flu, is largely to blame. Nearly 58 million birds and climbing have died across 47 states in the last year, a result of the deadly virus. Wild birds can carry the disease and spread it to domestic flocks when they migrate.
One wild bird coming into their chicken run, and next thing you know, 10 birds, 20 birds, 30 birds, they're just dropping dead.
Some states now recommending that all poultry be maintained indoors. Poultry and bird shows canceled, and biosecurity around chickens strictly enforced.
The avian flu is serious.
Egg Shop, with 2 cafes in New York City, is struggling with prices on their main ingredient. The fall migration of wild birds sent avian flu cases spiking again.
We go through 7,000 to 9,000 eggs a week, so it's a significant amount of eggs. And in the last couple of weeks, they've jumped as high as 60%.
The ripple effect goes beyond restaurants and bakeries. Take a look around the grocery store. Items that use eggs, like mayonnaise, are up 11.8% in the last year.
From the flu to the increases in inflation, all combined together with the shortage, it is a perfect storm.
And I definitely have seen the prices shoot up recently.
Does that stop you from making the purchase?
No, not at all. I'm just buying things to make a chicken cutlet, and you need eggs as the basis for that too. It's one of the reasons why there's no way not to purchase them.
That was Vanessa Yurkovich reporting. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, some other common grocery store staples that have increased in price include bread, butter, and milk. And a story making headlines around the world. For the first time since 1961, China's population fell. Births hit roughly 9.5 million, while 10.4 million people died. Data also showed a 6th straight year of lower birth rates. This can have a major impact on China's economy and the world. The concern is that the second largest economy won't have enough people to fuel its growth or to work in factories for global manufacturing. Still to come on Currents News, losing her sight hasn't stopped her from winning. This college athlete's incredible journey. Plus, a story of service, where these books are headed and why they're going there when we come back.
As the fog lifted and the world watched.
The casket being brought out from the Basilica into St. Peter's Square.
They're really being very true to his request to celebrate something simple.
Currents News was live in New York.
I believe Cardinal Ratzinger did the Mass when John Paul II died.
And the Vatican.
He had his rosary in his hands, his crucifix. It was just a beautiful, beautiful, moving moment.
Bringing you closer to the final farewell of Pope Benedict XVI in St. Peter's Square.
Holy Father arriving now. He's in his white cassock with a stole.
Nostri omnipotens Deus, et dimissis peccatis nostris, perduca nos ad vitam aeternam.
Amen. Putting your faith in the news. Currents News.
Looks like there's quite a few people out there. Let's pray that they all make it on board safely.
An amazing moment caught on camera. A Royal Caribbean cruise ship rescued 17 migrants at sea on Saturday. They were reportedly on this small boat for 15 days. Once brought on board, the ship's crew gave them food and medicine. No word on exactly where the migrants are from. Because of where the rescue took place, Bahamian authorities are looking into the rescue and the migrants' history with help from the U.S. Coast Guard. We all hit bumps in the road at one time or another to reach an ultimate goal, but imagine going blind while competing for a swimming championship and still going for gold. It happened to one ambitious swimmer in Iowa, and as Andy Madison tells us, the word quit was never in her vocabulary.
Northern Iowa's Olivia Chambers has been swimming for 15 years.
I love getting up and racing everyone else, and just being in the water makes me happy.
But the last few may have been the most challenging. At 16 years old, Chambers was declared legally blind.
It was a lot of learning curves, but in the water, I mainly had to learn how to count my strokes so I knew when to flip so I wouldn't hit the wall. And then in school, I got a bunch of different accommodations to help me, like large print and extra time.
Chambers didn't let a life-altering occurrence slow her down. Now, as a sophomore at Northern Iowa, she became the first Panther para swimming national champion.
That was a really special moment. You know, there's not a lot of kids that can turn what might be the most challenging thing in their life into a positive.
I never thought that my life would take this turn, but it has, and it's really exciting to finally have something good come out of losing my vision.
Chambers finished first in the 400-meter freestyle and 200-meter individual medley, beating out a 3-time Paralympic champion. She was also named the swimmer of the meet.
It was really crazy because I never really imagined swimming up with like the big names of the para swimming, so it was really exciting and is opening many doors for me.
Having lost her sight just over 3 years ago, Chambers is still making adjustments.
Moving to new pools is hard because the lighting, the walls, everything kind of changes. While it's the same length, the lighting can really mess with what it looks like through my eyes.
But she continues to get faster. Her next goal is to dip her toes into representing Team USA on an international stage.
It is a dream, it is a goal to go to the Paralympics in 2024, but we'll see what the future holds.
Outside of the water, her coach says she's finally letting her full personality shine. That confidence will only help her pursuit in the pool.
If she continues to do what she's doing, we don't see any limits on what she can accomplish.
Andy Madison, Currents News.
Wow. Now to another story about overcoming obstacles. This one's about using literacy as a bridge out of poverty. These are volunteers at a group called Books for Africa in Atlanta, Georgia. They collect, pack up, and ship 3 to 4 million books to the continent each year. Since 2016, books have gone to 35 different countries, with teachers saying it's helping students tremendously. One thing is for sure, on the heels of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, these volunteers are keeping his legacy alive.
I grew up in Atlanta, so it's something I was always intimately aware of. I drive by his old house and I drive by the church almost every single day going to my house, and it's just something that I think we all need to place a lot of importance on knowing more about.
And they're definitely getting the word out there by working so hard. In an impressive effort of compassion and drive, over 57 million books have been delivered so far. Do you have books to donate or want to send the organization cash? It's easy. Just head over to booksforafrica.org and click on the Donate tab for more information. And finally tonight, we are leaving you with a special blessing. No need to look at your calendar. These pet blessings are not in honor of the feast day of St. Francis, the patron saint of animals. Instead, it's for St. Anthony the Abbot, the patron saint of pets. It's celebrated in Spain, where thousands of people line up outside churches with their furry and not so furry friends, asking St. Anthony for health and lengthy lives for their pets. Madrid's St. Anthony Church says between 10 and 12,000 pets are blessed by its priest each year on this day. And the Vatican joined in on the feast day celebrations, a pop-up zoo appearing at Piazza Pius XII, featuring a variety of animals from horses and goats to cows. It's the 16th year animals of all shapes and sizes have appeared in the piazza for a blessing. The event also brings vendors selling artisan products like eggs and milk. I wonder if they're the same price in Italy. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.